Hello, I am Oscar Ledesma and I'm going to talk about my final work for second language acquisition. The aim of that work was to compare the differences among Spanish, English and Italian, taking into account a grammatical feature, possessive adjectives. The idea was to see if the acquisition of Italian possessive adjectives might be influenced by the knowledge or the previous knowledge of the other two languages. Before going into the analysis, I want to give a theoretical framework with some terms we are going to use later. First, I want to say what is SLA or second language acquisition. According to Ellis, it is the study of how a person learns a language other than his mother tongue, inside or outside the classroom. And EFL is, or English as a foreign language, is the theory and practice of learning English in a country in which English is not an official medium. The term I must talk about is interlanguage, that is when a learner creates a language system that draws from its language one, but it's also different from the target language. So interlanguage is a unique language system. That language system can vary. There is a interlanguage variability that can be systematic or non-systematic. The variability, it depends on a lot of factors. Some can be more specific and others can be more general. Within the systematic variability, there are context variability and individual variability, and among the non-systematic are the free variation and the performance variability. As regards errors are an important part of the language learning process because they give us an insight of the processes and strategies that are occurring inside our learner's head. Errors can be classified into three categories: language 1 transfer, generalization and overgeneralization of language 2 rules, redundancy, reduction, omission of L2 elements. Language 1 transfer can be positive if the language 1 structure helps the students to assimilate the new structure, and if the case is the contrary, the transfer is negative. Transfer is a metaphor, but not an appropriate one, and most authors prefer the term cross-linguistic influence. Universal grammar, it is a theory that states that our ability to learn grammar is hardwired to our brains. Furthermore, UG is defined as a system of categories, mechanisms, and constraints shared by all languages. Now we are going to talk about possessive adjectives, which is the feature we focused on for this work. It is a grammatical feature that occurs in all three languages, but can vary parametrically in all of them. As regards Spanish, the Real Academia Española defines posesivo como todo aquel adjetivo o pronombre que denote posesión o pertenencia. In English, the possessive also shows possession and ownership and consists of two series, the weak series and the strong series, both of them with different functions. As regards Italian, they also show possession and ownership, but the main difference with the other two is that they convey the meaning, taking into account the number and gender of the possessor and the possessed. Going into the methodology of the work, we must talk about error analysis, which is an approach developed by Corder in the 60s. which aim was to discover and understand how errors influence the language acquisition. Errors can be classified into interlanguage and intralanguage, and according to Corder they can fall into 4 different categories: omission of important elements, addition of unnecessary elements, selection of wrong elements, and misordering of elements. The errors can also be local or global. Now we are going to talk about the error analysis method. According to Corder, every error analysis research has 4 steps. The first one, error identification, in which we compare samples of our student with the sentence in the target language. The second one, error description. Once we know the error, we must describe and classify it. There are a lot of ways of classifying, and these ways include omission, misinformation, and misordering. The third step is error explanation, and once we finish with the 2 previous steps, we must explain why the error occurred. The sources of error are a lot. The learner may be committing an error of overgeneralization, on an error of omission, and if he's trying to apply a language 1 structure directly into the language 2, he may be committing an error of transfer. The fourth step is error evaluation. Once we finish the 3 previous steps, we must see which error is more serious than other as regards how they affect the meaning and the intelligibility of the things he's trying to say. The errors can be classified into global, or the more serious errors, and local errors. To analyze our samples, we use the error method analysis. This helps us to reach our conclusion. The full analysis of this work can be seen in the written work we presented. To conclude, the hypothesis of this work stated that there was a parametric variation among Spanish, English, and Italian as regards the acquisition of possessive adjectives. After finishing the work, we can confirm that it was noticeable how much the learners apply language 1 structures and made errors. Furthermore, the learners seemed to rely a lot on language 1 and language 2 structures and previous knowledge. Moreover, the learners perform negative interlingual transfer, since Italian has different features to determine gender and number of the possessor and the possessed. However, there was instances of negative intralingual transfer because the students weren't accustomed to the grammatical rules of the target language. And that's it.